Before we kick things off, I want to say a quick thank you. This podcast is proudly powered by M5 Rodeo Promotions. If you're chasing real rodeo, this is where you'll find it. Real cowboys and real competition. Check them out online to see where the next showdown is, and we'll see you at the shoots. All right, let's get into it. Recorded on location at some of Australia's biggest Western events, we're bringing you the stories you don't hear from the stands. I'm Prue Houston, rodeo reporter with M5 Rodeo Promotions, and this is Beyond the Buckle, the podcast where we go past the arena and into the stories, the people and the partnerships behind it all. And in this episode, you're getting a real look behind the scenes, so let's get into it. We are coming to you live from the Man from Snowy River Festival, right in the middle of the action, the beauty, the history, and everything that makes this lifestyle what it is. And I couldn't have think of a better person to kick this off with our launch pad of Beyond the Buckle. Not only has she built something pretty incredible with M5 Rodeo Promotion, she lives this lifestyle through and through, a real deal, bona fide Aussie cowgirl, Nicole McDonald. Welcome to Beyond the Buckle.
Thank you, Prue.
Oh, it is exciting. And I know that you weren't necessarily as excited as me.
Yeah, no. Being in front of the camera is not... I don't like to be at the front.
Well, I thought it was important for our Origin episode to kind of speak to the origins of this whole thing, because it wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. And I guess if we just think of it like we're just chilling out, having a look at a beautiful view and having a beer. So
yeah, good traveller.
Exactly. All right, so let's kick it off with just the basics. A lot of people know you obviously as the boss of M5 or maybe the competitor, but maybe paint us a picture of kind of how you got here.
Oh, my goodness. Well, you know, my husband and I have been married for many moons now, and we left Victoria to make some money, you know, and we went to the Territory. And when we came home from the Territory, we noticed that, you know, a lot of the great rodeos that we had grown up rodeoing were no longer, you know, and the kids events, they just weren't there for the kids. And, you know, we got 3 young boys and they're 3rd generation cowboys, and we wanted them to have the experiences and, you know, grow and live the life, you know, and learn the skill sets, get the morals that, you know, this cowboy life, you know, instills in us all. And yeah, and so we noticed that those rodeos were no longer, and we thought it was an opportunity to, you know, grow our kids up in a way that we wanted them to grow up in, and, you know, bring another level to rodeo. You know, my background is all cowboys, and Jean's background is all showmen. And so, you know, it was pretty neat for us to be able to bring 2 genres together that nobody else had really done before. You know, I feel like we've brought rodeo to a level that has made other people lift the game and, you know, do better and make things better for competitors and for the patrons and for our junior cowboys and cowgirls, and that's something we're really proud of. But yeah, that was probably the be all and end all of it, and that's, you know, M5 is McDonald, and there's 5 of us, and you know, no big conspiracy there, but yeah.
But it speaks to a lot of what you've wanted to paint with it. So
yes.
Starts with family and
starts with family.
Ends
That's
with family.
Exactly right. Yeah. Yep.
No, beautiful. You mentioned that you grew up around the scene a lot. Like, what did life kind of look like for you growing up?
Look, you know, we were very lucky. We had a lot of great cowboys and cowgirls around us right from when we were little kids, you know, and some real champions, you know. My father and his brothers are all Australian champions, you know, but our mates was, you know, Brad Pierce and Jaden Pierce that come from Jimmy and Wendy Pierce, and you know, Taylor Pierce, who is Dave Johnson and Trish Johnson's daughter, and you know, the list goes. It's a very long list. There's a lot
of repeated surnames when you look at a draw.
The Bookluck family, you know, they were somebody that you know, we lived with, and Deanna and I have been best mates since we were little tiny cowgirls. But, you know, Pete and Carol, they were actually one of the first people to have junior breakaway roping, you know, and they used to sponsor the junior breakaway roping just so we had it, you know, and, you know, the Kenny family, Shane and Leanne, they've done a lot for rodeo, and they've done a lot for junior rodeo, and they run the junior finals in Emerald, which is something that we support and get behind, and one of the reasons why we so badly wanted to run these junior pro rodeos for these kids, you know, was because of the level that they could go if they wanted to. You know, I feel like kids in Australia, if they want to make a living out of rodeo, well, you know, why not give them the opportunity to? You know, so it's easy to stand up and say, oh, look what we've created. But, you know, we've created this purely because of the people that have been around us, you know, and you see things that work and that don't work, and being brave enough to give it a go is, you know, is a lot. Because, you know, it's big risks. Every single weekend is huge risks.
A quick break to let you know that we proudly partnered with our good friends at Travla Beer to record this episode of Beyond the Buckle, born in the country and built on mateship, just like the lifestyle we live and love. Now let's get back to it. Like you mentioned before about coming together with Jean, that's sort of become like a dynasty of like these two worlds that have connected. But how did you guys actually meet?
At Corryong.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. So it's a special spot for you guys then.
It's a special spot for us. You know, I happened to save a cowboy hat that belonged to Jean, and and that's sort of where it all, but that's where we first originally
Don't they
met.
write novels about that now, if you wear the cowboy hat home?
You wear the cowboy hat home? I didn't wear the cowboy hat home. I've known that
you
lesson
knew that one.
my whole life. But no, it was here actually. They used to run a rodeo at Corryong at Christmas time. It was actually New Year's Eve. They used to run Corryong, and and that's another thing, you know, like we grew up coming to a rodeo in Corryong on the 31st of December. Scary that I remember that date, isn't it? So long ago. And you know, and have a look what this has grown into, you know.
It's incredible.
The people that are behind this event, and it's exactly the same networking as what I was talking about. You know, there's a group of people that have this idea, and you know, they start with this event, and then, you know, more and more people get around it, and the different experiences and the different knowledge come together, and, you know, and they've grown it into this massive 4-day event, you know, that we now have after Easter, and who would have thought any event would go great after Easter? And like, it's just amazing, and it's amazing to be a part of.
And you would see that, obviously, being that you run your own events, that behind the scenes it's like they're very calm on the top of the water, but underneath it's like a paddling duck. And you know, we've commented on that while walking around, that the volunteers and everyone there just seems to be knowing what to do and doing something to make it all look pretty effortless.
Yes, that's definitely. And you know, there's they've got great volunteers, and they've got a great board, and but it's the locals, like, you know, the locals come together and you know, all pitch in to give a hand and keep this country story going, which I think is just so important.
Absolutely.
You know, and this little tiny town with a little tiny RGA, and
it's
you know,
great,
and a little pub, and one little bakery, and those little things, and it's just so awesome to see it flooded by people right across the whole of Australia. You know, they put this as a bucket list festival.
It was
to
for
come
me,
to,
and this is my first, and I'm just like, the whole way here was just an absolute goofball of just like, this is the most beautiful part of the country. I'm so blessed to be able to come up here, and definitely they have it nailed. Like,
they absolutely have it nailed, and I think, you know, it speaks volumes. Like, you wake up here in the morning and you can't see, you know, your boots at the front step of the van, and then by about 10 o'clock you're pulling jumpers off because the sun is just beautiful and out, and, you know, and then
we've got a couple more hours so we have to put hoodies back on.
And then you come into the night and you want every jacket that you've taken off in the morning. But and it's just the whole experience, you know, is it's like nothing you've ever felt before.
That's very cool. I guess, like, when we talk about that kind of thing, you know, living in different parts of the country and experiencing that, like you mentioned you lived up in the Territory for a little while. What was that like?
Yeah, it's another world up there. We loved our time in the Territory, and we always talk about going back.
Were you mustering, or what were you guys doing?
Yeah, we managed a couple of different little spots, and we did a lot of contract mustering, and we were at Newcastle Waters, which is quite a big property.
Just you and Jean, or had you had any of the boys by then? Or
Lawson.
Okay.
Lawson was 9 months old when we left home.
Fun.
Lots of fun.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so Lawson was 9 months old when we left home, and we sold everything. We sold everything and left home, and to, you know,
went on an adventure.
Well, and it was the Aussie dream, like to come home and buy a property, buy what we wanted, and and that was just what we wanted to do, and we lived and we did things that you don't usually get to do. It's not a 9-to-5 job up there, and but once again, the country up there is beautiful and the air is clean. I can't explain to anybody how different it is up there, and you've never actually witnessed quiet until you've been like up there, and it's eerily quiet, but it's beautiful.
Yeah. Do you miss it?
Every now and again, when we get into this, I feel like we start, with our events, and things really start to, start running in August.
There's a serious pace
it's
to your
a
life.
massive pace to our life. And, so I miss the quiet and probably the simplicity. It's a simple life up there, and it's a beautiful life, but it's, when we're in the full throttle mixed of our events, there's not much time for, downtime or to take your foot off the accelerator. So yeah, it is beautiful.
So,
but then you get to come here for a week.
Yeah. And you've said to me before that this is one of your favourite events.
It is, yes.
Kicking back for that week, and probably not that you have, because you don't have to run it basically as well.
No, and that's exactly. And the kids, Carter's competing this weekend in the striplings, and, it's so fun, and, the diversity that, practicing to come up here for the week, and and the friendships that they grow is just amazing. You don't get these types of friendships that they make at these places, at these events. You don't get them at school.
Do you think that's because it's a sort of solid 4-day event and you're so isolated to come to this town that everyone's here together, and it's a real kind of like connection of everyone?
Oh yeah, and it's it's the common interest.
Yeah,
it is. Everybody's here for the same things.
Yeah.
Everybody's here to do well with their horses, or witness someone doing well with their horses. It's the common denominator, and I think it's so neat for our kids to meet other kids that have the exact same interests, and they have the same values, and they have the same morals, and their parents are all on a similar, time frame with, where their needs and their wants and their desires,
And I guess that is probably why it circles back to you starting M5, that seed that started it, a lot of that stuff that is why you wanted to do it.
Yeah.
Help me understand, like, when you got back from the Territory, you had, like, how many boys by then, and, like, how did it, like, the real seed that sort of went, are we really doing this?
Okay. So we had trucks for a long time when we got home. We had a trucking business, and when we got home from the Territory, I was pregnant with Carter, and not long after we got home, I had Carter. And then there's only 14 months between Carter and Slater.
Yeah.
And we're busy, growing our trucking company, and we had 3 trucks on the road, and I had these boys. And if, anybody knows our boys, they know they're fairly, they're cowboys. And
That's the most diplomatic mum response ever.
They're cowboys. They, you know, I always say to them, you know, you need to be polite enough to get a feed wherever you go, and have enough sass in you to survive when there is no feed there to get. So
Well, you've done pretty bloody well with that.
So so we had these three boys, and they love hunting and fishing and riding horses and riding bulls and you know, all these things. And Gene was away so much, and it just got to a point where, you know, we decided, and Gene decided, that it was time for him to actually be home and be around our boys and help grow them up. And I think, you know, that was probably one of the first steps towards us, you know, really deciding that we were gonna, you know, really launch into this. And we started with 3 rodeos. We started with Geelong, Echuca, and Bendigo. Geelong was our first rodeo, and it was massive. And we did so many things wrong. And, you know, we learnt hard and fast that first year about different things in running events. You know, it's so hard because one of the things that I think, you know, pulls us apart from others is the fact that, you know, we desperately want to look after our patrons, because our patrons, they come in to watch us. You know, they are who are paying to actually see us do the best we can do as competitors. But for competitors to be able to compete at the highest level and, you know, break records, like we've seen Liz Kenny broke the breakaway roping record last year at Echuca. You know, we've seen 90-point bull rides and 90-point bronc rides. You know, we've seen, you know, steer wrestling in the 3-second mark. But for them to be able to do that, they need to be surrounded in an atmosphere that makes them think they can be 3 seconds, makes them think they can be 90 points, you know. And so looking after the competitors and building it into an event where, you know, the vibe and the atmosphere and the adrenaline is where you walk through it and it hits you in the face, you know, that is really important. So keeping those few things together, you know, and then you've got our sponsors, you know, and actually hitting the mark with all our sponsors. That's really important too, because these guys put their names behind us, you know, and I think of that every time somebody comes and asks me if we want to jump on and sponsor, you know, and you always think, is that somebody that I want to attach my name to, you know, are they going to fulfill all my, you know, I suppose your morals, you know, as a person and as a business, and that's really important. So having the aspect of, you know, the patron, the competitor, the sponsors, you know, it's just so important that you know, hit every mark at a 6, you know, and yeah, it's. So I feel like us bringing those different aspects together is what's set the bar so high.
Yeah. So in the early days, though, was there ever a moment where you maybe, you know, looked at Jean and you were like, this might not work? Like, was there, like, the risk and the fear, obviously, but like when it was really crunch time and did you wonder?
Oh my God. I think, you know, if you don't have doubt, I think you're running blind.
Okay.
You know, I always feel like doubt is always double checking that you've done your homework, you know, and it's really important to have doubt. I believe it's important to have doubt, because otherwise I think you just...
Not me sitting here wondering if he's pressed record. But I trust
I've got all of this.
Yeah.
Start again. I think you know, it's something that you have to work really hard at, you know, and do your homework, and sometimes it doesn't matter if you've done everything right.
Yeah.
sometimes that doesn't matter. Sometimes it's just not how it's supposed to roll. And, you know.
And then there's a lesson in that, isn't there, right?
There is,
Yeah.
you know. And there's towns that you go to that just hit it out of the park, and you make mistakes, and, you know, it still rolls on and nobody realises or nobody knows. And then there's towns where you just absolutely smack it out of the park and you don't get the support. And that's when you've got to come back to your ground roots, come back to the drawing board, come back and think, okay, so, you know, is this the right town for us to take this type of event to, you know?
Yep.
And, yeah.
It's most definitely now, I'd say, you know, I've only come on board recently, but, you know, it's a real fixture in the rodeo calendar now. After all these years, you've earned your stripes with people that, like, what's something that people don't see it takes to actually run this? I think there's probably a lot, but yeah.
Thick skin.
Yeah.
You know, thick skin and a good partner in crime. You know, everybody has an opinion, and that's great. You know, and everybody has standards, and that's what makes you rise above and do things better. You know, but you know, people get to become to where they expect. You know, and to be grateful to have an opportunity to enter a rodeo, I think, is really important. You know, we should be grateful, and it is a privilege that we actually have these rodeos to attend. And I'm not just talking about our rodeo, I'm talking about this rodeo. You know, if you ever get to ride Saturday night here, is like nothing of it can ever explain to you. If you ever get to ride Saturday night of Mount Isa, or Saturday night at Warwick, you know, Saturday night in Geelong, if you get to experience these amazing events and be inside the arena, you know, it's a privilege that we get to compete and do the things that we're doing. And I think sometimes we get into a mindset that, you know, it's an expectation and we should expect people to be at our beck and call and those things. But, you know, when it comes down to it, these great events like ours, they don't go without volunteers and without employees. And, you know, a please and a thank you will get you so far down the line, you know, and just to be grateful. You know, to be grateful that we're here doing what we want to do, you know, is we're so lucky. And we can do it for money.
Yeah.
You know, competitors this year, you know, M5 alone paid out over $360,000 in prize money.
That's incredible.
Like, that is incredible, you know, and, you know, every weekend we had a rodeo, somebody else had a rodeo.
Yeah.
So that's not the only money in the pool. You know, and so, yeah, it's a real privilege to be rodeoing in this day and age. And yes, it's tough and it's hard and life's tough and grocery bills are high and so is fuel and all the rest of it. But we could be doing a lot worse.
Hi, quick favour before we jump back in. If you're loving this episode, don't keep it to yourself. Send it to a mate, share it on your socials, hit follow, or even better, drop us a review. It helps us keep showing up and bringing you more from this Western world we all love. Okay, now let's get back into it. I like your perspective, and I mean, I've seen you in action, and I think something that I took away from it is, like, I always see everyone kind of wanting a piece of you, and you have that magnetic part of your character, which is why this works. People want to check in with you and check things with you. How does that not burn you out? Because I see it happening, and I'm like, you must get tired.
Oh, look, you become a beacon, you know, and but to be honest with you, I am incredibly grateful that we have so many great people around us that want to work, that want to work for us and want us to see our events do well. And so, yeah, you do get tired, but it's short-lived because the reminder is there that, you know, these people are giving me their time. Time is everything. Time is everything. And so, I suppose, like, it's the same as anything. You know, you look at the bigger picture, and I'm very proud of what Jean and I have created in M5. And, you know, when you stand back and you have a look at the event that we've set up and everything in place, and, you know, the signage, M5 signage everywhere, and these fantastic sponsors that are up on our shoots and on our arena fencing, and you know, it pulls you into line really quickly, because like I said, these guys have backed us with their name.
Yeah.
They're proudest, you know, their name is more important to them than anything else, you know, and they've backed us with their name.
Yeah.
So, you know, you when you sit back and look at it, it's something to be very proud of. And you know, you sleep in June.
I was actually going to say, like, you do get your downtime and your rest time, but like surely at the end of a rodeo or of a long weekend or a series of events, like, is Gene kind of your person that you can take it all off and just be like relaxed with him? Like, who's your biggest support person?
Yeah,
Yeah,
my
it's
husband.
him.
Yeah. And you know, and it's because we want to see. Not only do we want to see each other win in the arena, you know, we want to see each other win in life. You know, and we want our children to win, and we want our friends to win. But it's, you know, like, he's been my rock. He has been my absolute everything. You know, from we met here. It's hard to have your husband, you know, is your work partner, is, you know, is your best friend, is your everything. But, you know, we make it work. And yeah, you have times where you need to take 5 and reassess. But, you know, it's probably something that we're probably both very proud of.
And you should be.
Yeah.
And I mean, I see you work to each other's strengths as well, and you both know each other's strengths, which I think helps, because you're not jostling for the same roles within the business. So you can see that is a working.
That's definitely Jean's motto is, I'll stay in my lane, you stay in your lane. No, it's, I think because we've got similar goals, and that is to, you know, to run the best events we can possibly run. So it's easy when you're both working towards this similar goals, you know.
But I think it's interesting because not only have you challenged yourself to work and find a working relationship with your husband, you have so many family members involved in M5. Like, was that a deliberate choice, or did you just want to challenge yourself as to how much you could deal with?
Look, I think, you know, family's family, and we have quite a big family. So when you're looking for people to help you in a support network, it's not hard to. You don't go far before you find somebody that's related to us.
Yeah.
You know, but it's just reassuring to have people around you that are batting for you.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important. I think that's one of the reasons why M5 has succeeded to the level it has, is because, you know, we have these great support networks around us. You know, I couldn't do what I do, you know, without you girls behind me. You know, I've got the best team of girls that work with me every day, and it doesn't matter if it's 9 o'clock at night or if it's Sunday morning. You know, everybody's still batting for the same goals. You know, and I think that's similar to you know, my mum judging, and you know, I love looking out and seeing my mum. So many of my morals,
She's the best.
My mum has taught me. You know, and I am the woman I am today, this, you know, cowgirl, because of her and because of the morals that she's instilled in me. You know, she takes the credit for a lot of what we've been able to achieve. Yeah.
And I see that when, obviously, getting to know your bigger family and everything. And just, I think everyone has the same goal to preserve this life.
Yes.
And, you know, I've often said to you, I feel like I was born into the wrong family. I should have been born into one of the families. But it just, because I do love that. And I see it immediately. And it's throughout the whole M5 organisation where there's people related. There's
Yes.
just this really strong determination to keep it going.
Yes,
which I
that's
think is
exactly
amazing.
right. Yeah,
And
you know, like it goes back to, you know, these friendships that you form, you know, as little kids, like our kids are this weekend. You know, we've all formed those relationships, you know, when we were kids, and now, you know, we're all at the stage where we're running the events, and you know, Jazz, Pierce, and Jaden, you know, are huge contributors to the Man from Snowy River, and you know, we all grew up together.
Yeah.
And now I look out and I see all, you know, our boys and Jazz's boys running around together, and you know, down the street together, and you know, Arnie lives got lolly bags for them, and you know, and that. They're the relationships that you want.
It's
you know,
amazing.
it
Yeah.
is so amazing that that we're now generational friends.
It's almost like you get to live out the nostalgia that a lot of people miss about their own
Yes.
childhood. Like if you were to say that to someone who wasn't living this lifestyle, they would remember they had that, but maybe their kids don't, and then
Yeah.
they miss it. And I feel like it's a living, breathing thing that's happening, but it also feels nostalgic.
Yes.
So that's probably why I am attracted to it so much, because I just think that is aspirational. And, you know, it's
yeah.
great that we can share that now with people, and the mainstream elements coming into rodeo and people that are seeing it kind of unfold.
Yeah,
So
definitely. And I had some people come to Geelong Rodeo, and they said something really neat to me. You know, they hadn't been to a rodeo before, and they come to Geelong, and they said it's like you step inside the gates and we're inside this community of people that we all think the same, and you know, and how cool is it just to be there and witness this, you know, phenomenal sport that showcases, you know, horses and cowboys and cowgirls, and then we're a part of it, and we've never even, you know, stepped foot near a horse or a bucking bull or a cow, or you know, and that's
and
so
it
neat.
is true. I feel
know?
that when I walk through the crowd at any event, and there's just a sense of camaraderie, togetherness that you'd find if you went to the MCG or, you know, something like that. You know, there's this connectivity because everyone's there for that good time.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's really great. And it is a testament to all your hard work. And I guess I'd love to know what you'd go back to sort of day one M5 Nicole and say to her. Maybe after your first event where you kicked your boots off at the end and you were like, if you could visit that girl, what would you say to her?
Pull your hat down.
All right.
You know, yeah, like I said, like that first event, we got so many things wrong, and you know, probably nobody would know that, you know. And there's little different things that we laugh and we giggle at now, and we think, oh my God, did we really do that? And, you know, but we did something right, because, you know, we had sponsors that came to us at that event that are still with us now. And, you know, we put Geelong Rodeo back on the map, and you know, we had worked out that it had been 12 years since Geelong had a rodeo.
Wow.
You know, and the same with Bendigo.
Yeah.
And you know, Echuca, I actually can never remember going to a rodeo in Echuca. So Echuca hadn't had a rodeo for, you know, 35 plus years. You know, and those rodeos are some of our biggest rodeos.
Yeah.
You know, Echuca, we've become locals in these towns.
Definitely.
You know, and it's really cool and it's really neat, and I suppose, you know, the friendships that you form with sponsors and the locals, you know, is really fun.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. I mean, I think it makes me wonder though, what if you could put a proudest moment on anything? Did something stand out for you? Because I mean, everything you just said then is something to be super proud of. But like, is there something, just as the founder, as something, you know, you've created this that you can actually go, like just a moment that stood out?
There's so many moments, and I think that's why it's really important to, slow down and enjoy it while it's happening, because you can so easily just get into this mindset of racing through your event and racing through your day. But look, I think at the probably this year is one of the proudest things that has been when we started presenting our buckles and stuff to our kids this year.
That was
I
a phenomenal ceremony. Like
it
that was.
it's I can tell you, like, when we very first had a full junior rodeo, was the first one we had. We had four steer riders. Four steer riders. Now we average 19 to 20 steer riders. We had four junior breakaway ropers. Now we're at 24, averaging 24 junior breakaway ropers. The junior team roping it's in the same boat. Like, that in itself, and, to look at the top 10 kids in the country at the moment and see that there is, a lot of Victorians and a lot of South Australians that would not have got the opportunity to go to the junior finals now have, those things, that makes me proud. That makes me proud that, the next generation of kids, are able to rodeo, and able to set goals, life goals, get to college, go to the States.
Incredible.
Is amazing, and it's something that's on our boys' bucket list. It's what they it's what drives them to go to school most days, is that they want to go to college in the States, and that that's opportunities that we never had. And to be able to have those opportunities for our kids is amazing. Every week they're releasing another Aussie going to the States, and that's something, Extreme Saddle Bronc that's here. We'll watch the final here on Saturday night. That's something that they've contributed to in growing the Saddle Bronc. And you see we've got, some phenomenal Saddle Bronc riders in the States and here in Australia, and it's all to do with just, keeping the morals, keeping the dream alive, and keep driving that level of professionalism higher and higher.
And I think, you create a great environment for the kids. Like they are all together. And I mean, that barrel racing list is growing. Your mum's checking it regularly to see who's coming up after her as well. But, those kids are so amazing. And they're, they're checking which events they like, want to grow into. But at least in that junior section, they can kind of try some things out and feel safe with that. They don't have to kind of pick a lane yet. No. And I love seeing them all, going through that and doing well and being proud of themselves.
It's phenomenal. Like, and I hope it's something that, grows into, I say, like, the very first ones that they ran for 40 minutes.
Yeah.
And then we've had to pull our gate opening time to 2:00 because we're up to 3.5 hours of junior rodeo, and I refuse to put them in the slack, and because that's what you want. You want them to have the experience and enjoy what they're doing so that they want to stay and do it.
And can you imagine what the main event's going to look like in 10 years?
Oh my God.
When all these kids have come through and been rodeoing for years. Like, that is just going to be incredible. Like, we're doing stadiums, Nicole. Like,
yes, that's
flat
exactly.
out stadiums.
Yeah.
Like,
and like, why not?
Yeah.
Why not? Why aren't, I just think, like, why not? Why aren't we doing stadiums? It's the sky is the limit with this, and I think country's cool. And
I was going to say, what a time to be,
yeah,
trying to connect mainstream with this live. is the fact that country music's opened up the gates. Cowboys are cool.
Yep.
Everything about country life
I
is
think cowboys have
aspirational.
always been cool.
I
think
agree.
the world's just woken
I
up.
think they've just realised, excuse me, we like our men this way. But
Yeah.
no, I 100% agree. And I think that, you know, we've seen it with country music just become like on the regular radio stations and
Yeah.
that sort of thing. And so, you know, it's only natural that it could conceivably be that, you know, we rock up to Marvel Stadium one day and we've got a rodeo there.
Yeah, damn straight.
An M5 rodeo.
Yeah, an M5 rodeo. Yeah, that's right.
So you're at Corryong now for the week, you know, rodeo season with M5's on a break now. But what is life actually like when you're stepping back? Like if you're at home, you know, what are you doing to sort of just take the brakes off a little bit?
Look, we're at the moment we're focused on getting the kids to the last of the junior rodeos. They've both kids, both older boys, Carter and Lawson, both set goals for the junior finals this year. So you know, for this for April, our goals are just purely about getting them to these last few rodeos to give them the best chance that they can to make the finals.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I don't feel like we ever really take the brakes off. I feel like you start planning the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. But just being home and our good horses will go out and have a well-earned break, and we'll bring some young horses in, and we'll just be at home. We'll do some hunting. We'll spend some time. Just
Do you farm anything at home, or has you just got property? Like
just horses. We just farm horses.
Bloody good ones too.
No. We just got our horses and
which is enough.
Yeah, that's exactly. A few steer wrestling
As someone
steers.
who's eyeing off getting one, I've been told that's enough.
That's enough. And a few buck and steers and all the rest of it to keep everything going. But and it's nice to just be at home. I think, you know, that's when you get to sit back and think of how you're going to change things and build things and make things better and grow it again for the next year.
And start a podcast.
And start a podcast and
step into a new era. Yeah.
But that's so important to, keep moving forward and, you know, coming to these events like the Man from Snowy River, you know, you can learn so much if you, walk around with your eyes open and, you can see how they've done something better than you, or, you know, look at what different companies they're using, or, you know, how they're running a program, or, you know, who they're using as an announcer and all those different things.
Yep.
You know, if you walk around and just take it in, you can honestly learn so much from other events because there's people doing such great things.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. It's.
I think I probably already know the answer to this, but if you went back to the moment where it could have gone either way at that stage, would you have still chosen this path?
Yes.
I already knew that. Like, I can't imagine that you wouldn't have. But
I say all the time, you know, if we won Tuts Lotto, we would be doing exactly the same thing we're doing now. We wouldn't be worrying about bills. But yeah, like
that's how you know, though. Like,
yes,
you wouldn't change a thing.
You would not. No, we wouldn't change a thing. Like, they're long, hard days, and you know, there's times where you're working from sun up to sundown, and but when you step back just before gates open and look at what you've created, you know, it's pretty cool.
And I kind of can't imagine that you'd be very happy if you weren't this busy. Like, I feel like this is just sort of you're happy in the chaos and the crazy, and like you'd be bored, right?
Yeah,
you'd be so bored.
Yeah. I think if we weren't doing this, we'd be taking on something else. Like it's, you know, but it's it's so cool. Like, you know, who would have ever thought? You know, we grow up listening to everybody, our parents and everybody saying, you can't make a living off rodeo. You can't make a living off this and you can't make a living off that. And, and I think we all listened to a certain point, when we had the 9 to 5 job and we did the things that we had to do to make ends meet. And,
Then you're like, hold my beer and watch me.
let's give it a crack, like what's the worst that can happen?
Taking a quick break here to thank our supporters, the Man from Snowy River Bush Festival, one of Australia's most iconic celebrations of horsemanship and Western lifestyle, and of course, where this episode of Beyond the Buckle was recorded. Now let's get back to it. Well, I think that leads me into our kind of little finishing segment that we're going to do on the podcast, and it's called the Buckle List. A little play on words from the bucket list, but it's basically where we ask you kind of to share what's on your buckle list. It could be life, business, rodeo. What's on your bucket list? Your buckle. Oh my God, I can't even say it now. What's on your buckle list?
Oh, look, probably somewhere like Marvel Stadium.
I thought that was, at least a starter point.
Yeah. We'd love to build this series into where we run our own finals. And, why not be at Marvel Stadium? Why not be at the MCG? Why not be at one of these stadiums? It is like sky is the limit, and it's a building block, and it's probably not something that's going to happen, in the next 12 months or 2 years, but, who knows where it's going to land. And, we're always just striving to do better than we did the week before. So, if the opportunity comes, we would definitely get hold of it.
I think, I could think of no one better than to do that. Next stop, the Olympics, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, Nicole, I just want to say thank you, and not just for coming on today, but for taking a chance on me, which was, an unknown at the time, and I will not forget that. You once told me when we first started speaking that you only work with hustlers, and that lives rent-free in my head whenever I am thinking of things to do and make better about what I do as part of this role, and only because I see you backing that in everything you do. So to see what you've built with M5 and to be a little small part of it, it means so much to me. And I just want to thank you for coming on and sharing your story, and thanks for being on Beyond the Buckle.
Thanks, Prue. No worries.
And that is it. That is a wrap. That is it for this episode of Beyond the Buckle, recorded on location at some of Australia's biggest Western events, bringing you the stories you don't hear from the stands. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you're following on your favourite podcast platform and on YouTube so you don't miss what's coming next, because the arena is only part of it. The rest happens beyond the buckle.